Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to have the paper review on Off the Press, and joining us to review the papers this morning is Jide Johnson. He's a public affairs analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you, and good morning to our viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, we'll begin with The Nation this morning, and it leads with federal lawmakers seek more funding for 2024 capital projects. The writers here says capital releases to MDAs are major drivers of economy, and edu, there are warrants awaiting payments. In fact, this was one of our top trending stories this morning. And just talking about the National Assembly in this case was talking about, the capital projects that we're supposed to have, and we're not even meeting the 43% that was set out. I think we're just still about 20 something. And of course, this is something that affects a majority of Nigerians, because we're talking about roads, we're talking about hospitals, those are things that needs to be developed. But I want to get your take on this, the fact that we're not meeting the quota, what we expect, and this was as of 2024. Another thing that was being talked about was the fact that most times maybe payments take too long, and before you know it, these projects are being abandoned. And I remember sometime last year there was a report that said there were so many abandoned projects over the past 10 years or so, 7 to 10 years. So we've seen the cases whereby we start a project and then before you know it, it never gets to completion. And then before you know it again, we start another project. So we're talking capital project upon capital project, and then we still do not meet the target at the end of the day. Now the federal government is, seeking for funds. They're asking, the finance minister, we need more funds to be able to inject this into this capital project. What's your take on this?
Yeah, what is just tied to planning and knowing what to do with the resources that you have, and then also for you to understand that capital projects are not pet projects, they are the project of the nation.
Yeah.
They are not project that is tied to the name of an individual or that is tied to the name of a particular administration. Some of the challenges we have is that those in public offices have turned capital projects to be their pet project, and that's why I say there's no need for anybody that uses public fund to name any project that is constructed under his administration with his name. For example, there are no projects that were named after Jakonde in the First Republic, in the Second Republic in Lagos State. It's even the people that named those projects after him. All of those projects were named after Lagos State. And that's the challenges you have with successive administration. If I start a capital project and I name the project after myself and I see it as my own personal achievement and not seen as national achievement, another person that comes after me will abandon that project if I didn't complete that project, I will start his own project. And I think that probably there should be a law to that effect that says that any project, before you can embark on a new project, you must complete whatever project you have inherited. You don't just initiate a new project. And that's the best way we can deal with this particular headed problem. Like you said, there are loads and loads of abandoned projects as a result of those projects being abandoned because there's a change in government or there's a change in leadership of government across all levels of government. And that's why we're having the challenges. And the National Assembly, we should provide a balance, we should provide a check, in the sense that some of them have been in the National Assembly for 12 years, some for 8 years. They enjoy some measure of continuity. And through their power of appropriation, they should have been able to allocate funds to all of these projects that in the first instance, they allocated funds to, rather than be looking for money for it now. I think there's a need for them to look at what their responsibility is, having power over the purse, and ensuring that they work in the interest of every Nigerian. That's why the National Assembly is based on two representation: one, equality of the state for the Senate, and then, for population representation for the House of Representatives. That's they are represented by a certain number of population, so distributed based on the population of each of the states. And that's why they are the legislator there. That's why the Constitution gives them the power of the purse, and they should own up to their responsibility rather than looking for money for 2024 projects in 2025. In actual sense, they have that responsibility and they have that opportunity with 2025 appropriation. And why can't they make allocation to this particular project 2025 appropriation? Projects are not tied to a single year budget. Projects, capital projects, takes years to complete, and you should keep voting money for it year in, year out, rather than start looking for money now And you recall when we were talking about the budget, I said I hope that in 2025 we will not have 4 budgets running, just like we had in 2024 and just like we had in 2023. We have more than 2-3 budgets running at the same time. And how then do you ensure accountability and transparency? How then do you prevent corruption from happening?
I love that you just even spoke about accountability and transparency. So on The Guardian, there's another story here that still talks about, the funding or finance. And this says, Senate erupts as urgent 6 executive session on fuel subsidy proceeds. So, of course, they had met to speak about the 2024 budget and, of course, the performance of the 2024 budget and the 2025 appropriation bill. And they got to quite some intense questioning to Ejim because, of course, the senators had to, grill him, basically. But what is your take on how the 2024 budget had performed so far? And even with the new appropriation bill that is being put out, because we're talking transparency here, we're talking accountability for our actions. And if we want Nigeria to grow, if we want all of these capital projects to actually pull through, and we see that happen here now, the development of our nation, we need that transparency, we need that accountability. So what's your take on, the performance of the last budget, and now that, of course, Wale Ojo is being questioned as a 6th and executive session?
Well, why should there be an executive session concerning the budget? Everything that relates to money should be done in the open. Why should there be an executive session? If you are talking about the finances of the people, we are talking about my money and your money. This money comes from the taxpayer. So these people are in offices representing you and I. So why should it be done in secret? Whereby they backslap each other and they give each other high five, and then they conclude whatever arrangement they want to conclude in secret, and nobody is aware of it. And that's the major problem we've had. And that's why we have this without this session. 2024. Look, the National Assembly has the owner's responsibility in terms of allocating resources. The executive will come with their proposal, but the final approval lies with the National Assembly. And they also have oversight function. They have allocated money to why wait till December 2024 before you do evaluation, or why wait January 2025 before you do the evaluation of 2024 performance. You always have the years divided into 4 quarters. One, the first quarter ends in March, the second quarter ends in June, the third quarter ends in September, and then the last quarter, which starts from October. You could have done you could do quarterly analysis of looking at the budget performance. What is not evaluated cannot be assessed, and what is not assessed cannot be appropriated for. So if you don't do an assessment of previous year to look at the performance indicator to see whether you have voted money for the right sector, whether the money that you have invested is yielding the intended result, and you are not throwing money down the drain, how would then you be able to build budgets for 2025? So this performance evaluation should be a recurrent feature, should be a quarterly thing. They shouldn't have to wait till the end of the year or the presentation of another budget before they do this performance evaluation. And I think that the National Assembly needs to wake up to its own responsibility. They have a responsibility. That's why they are elected directly by the people. They are not an extension of the office of the presidency or an extension of the office of the governor. They have an oversight function. They have their own independence. And one of the beauty of the system of government we have is for them to serve as checks and balances. You need those checks, you need those balances. If you present your check to the bank and your balance does not meet up with the check you are presenting, your check will bounce. And that's the principle of check and balances. To ensure that whatever government is proposing, they are not balanced to ensure that government has the capacity to deliver on those checks the government is giving to the people. And if you continue to do the way we are doing, you still be having this particular problem. It's just before a matter of time. And I usually blame the leadership of the National Assembly. The leadership of the National Assembly, and I've advocated that we should take away the title of the president for the Senate presidency. There shouldn't be any Senate president. The title president belongs to the executive. Now, when you make somebody to be the Senate president, automatically you have given him the semblance of being an executive. He has an executive mindset. And that's why you have seen most Senate presidents have operated not as legislator to be the first among the equal, but to operate as if they are chief executive officer of their various chambers, and that's why they silence opposition and criticism sometimes.
I agree with you. So I know that when they were speaking about this whole, the budget and all of the questions that were being asked, Wale Ejiru gave vague responses, and Senator Ningi, had to speak about certain things which are critical for Nigerians, because that's the questions that we're also asking. And one of the major questions is the money that was, recovered from fuel subsidy that has been gone. Where is that money? How much have we truly saved? We don't know all of that in Nigeria. We don't know where the money has gone to. We don't know what the money is being used for. We don't even know how much. And it's just like what's happening, with the oil sector. We don't know how much we produce every single day, how many barrels that we produce. There's even reports that, they mortgage some of our oil. We don't even know. We don't have any idea of what's going on. And like you said, if we want that transparency, then you shouldn't be asking for an executive session. Everything needs to be out there in the open so that Nigerians, they have this information. It's at their fingertips for whenever they need it. But let's talk about what budget has said. So budget for 2025 budget demands breakdown of TET fund NJC allocations. Don't you think at this point, this is where the Nigerian government needs to start that transparency journey with Nigerians to say, yes, this is what we're doing. This is how much we need. This is how much we're getting in revenue. This is how much we're spending. This is how much we're saving. Why can't they let the Nigerian people know all of these details? Because here, budget is obviously demanding for the breakdown. Don't you think they should give it to us at this point? In 2025, haven't we gotten there?
Well, if you think there's going to be any change, let's forget about that. Because there's no system. Look, the same players, it's just their jersey that changes over time. Sometimes the jersey remains the same. It's the same player that are still playing the game. The same players that started this game in 1999 are still the same players that are playing the game in 2025. And it's too late for a leopard to change the color of his skin, no matter how hard it rains or no matter how it sounds. So for us to think that there will be any remarkable change, don't forget it was the budget last year that got Ningi into deep shallow water that led to him being suspended. You recall what led to Ningi being suspended last year. It was the budgetary issue that made him to even lose his position as a minority, as one of the principal officers for the minority in the National Assembly. So for me, when they begin to play this drama, let me tell you the truth, my thinking and my own observation is that when senators begin to play this drama, it's about what comes to their constituency, what are the things that they're able to put in place for their own constituency project, and what is in it for me. That's the way I see it, not what is in it for Nigerians. Let's look at this way. Is it the responsibility of senators to do constituency project, or it should be the responsibility of the executive to carry out this project, or is it the responsibility of legislators to do different types of welfare programs that they do, or it should have been left for probably, let's say, the local government and the rest of it to do all of these things? So it's about top class negotiation, and this is the time for them to stifle the neck of the executive to ensure that they feed into the budget whatever they need to feed into the budget to take care of their constituency and to take care of themselves in the future. It's not about putting in place a particular system. Look at what's happening in the United States of America. Now, America is talking about the regulation. The Trump administration is coming in. They are talking about the regulation. They are talking about eliminating a federal income taxes. They are talking about national just consumption tax, a flat rate of consumption taxes. But here in Nigeria, we are increasing tariff left, right, and center. Yeah. Last year, it was the increase of electricity tariff. This year, they said the telcos are going to increase their tariff, and government says it's going to reduce inflation. There's no way you bring taxation. There's no way you bring over-regulation and you expect your business to grow. Over-regulation and taxation stifle economic growth because it takes money away from the disposable income that people have after they've taken of their basic need. What is left for you is your disposable income. It is on that disposable income that you're able to save in bank. It is from the savings that banks are able to put resources together as funds that is available for loan for even big time investors and small and medium scale enterprise. A lot of Nigerians are not even saving because the income, the discretionary income that you have is not, you don't even have any discretionary income that you could use to savings or you could use for investment and the rest of it. Everything we have as income, we spend it for survival. And because everything is taxed from head to toe, you are taxed from head to toe. Even for you to just make an ordinary phone call, you are taxed from head to toe.
Speaking about
and you expect the economy to grow.
Yeah, speaking about taxation, on the Daily Trust, there's a story that says northern groups demand VAT reduction to 3%. Do you think that's ever going to happen? Because, I mean, it wasn't even 3% before. It was about, we had 5%, 7.5%, and now it's going up. And with them demanding 3%, is that even possible?
You see, I don't know what logic, but the basic understanding of economics that I have applied it. For example, I pay income taxes. Let's say I use hypothetically, I collect 100,000 naira monthly. I pay income taxes to government. And after I paid income taxes to government, let's say I pay 15,000 income taxes to government. Now, at the end of the day, I purchased 50,000 naira worth of items for our household use, and then that 50,000 you are taking 15% and pay 15% VAT on that 50,000. Now, do the sum of how much has government collected from. For me, to a certain extent, I see VAT as double taxation, and I might be wrong, but my own basic monetary economics, my own basic understanding of macroeconomics tells me that we have too many taxes in this country.
Yeah, but I know that
economic growth.
Yeah, I know that. I know that what they're trying to do, of course, is to consolidate everything. Like you said, we have so many taxes. But in the UK, for instance, I mean, if you go there and you buy stuff, you have like a tax exemption. So you have a rebate for VAT. I don't know if they still do that, but when I was in uni, if you go, you buy stuff, you can put all of those receipts together, and at the airport you just show them that, you know, this is what I've paid. But I don't even know if we do anything of such in Nigeria. I want to take this
and then if you do charity, if you contribute to charity and the rest of it, you engage in philanthropy activities, there are codes in your tax code that gives you some exemption. There are no exemption. The only ones that are exempted are those that are the top end in Nigeria, who don't even pay taxes.
Interesting. So let's take this final one quickly because we're out of time. On The Guardian, it leads with pediatric nutrition, health concerns over affordability, safety, quality of infant meals. So, of course, inflation is a major factor here, and we're looking at affordability. In fact, I went to the supermarket yesterday and I saw that they now have sachets of baby food. So normally growing up, I knew they used to come in tins, but now they have sachets because, of course, a lot of people cannot afford this food for their babies. How do you think the government is supposed to play here right now? Because it's not even just food, medication, drugs. People can barely afford the drugs that they need to ensure that they're living healthy lives. And of course, the quality of this stuff. How do you think the government can come in to help us better, especially when we're talking about kids here who have just come into the world?
Well, when you talk about the cost of diapers and the rest of it that children need for survival, the first 15 months of that child, what provisions has government made in place to take care of the kids of infants in their first 15 months? I think it's a conversation that we need to have. And it's something that there should be some high level of advocacy for government, for us to do. That government, who cares for the infant, who cares for the unborn, who cares for those that don't have voices? These are their survival rights. Their survival rights, their developmental rights, the right for them to live. These are basic fundamental human rights. Now, when you look at the Child Rights Act of 2023, they have four basic elements. One is the child survival, two is the child's development, three is the child protection, and four is the child participation in decisions. And a child that did not even survive, that did not fully develop, cannot even participate in the process. So these are conversations that we need to have moving forward. Why should the baby formula, you call it the formula for babies, forever, why should it be costlier than the food for an adult?
That's a very good question. Anyways, this is where we have to wrap it up now because we're out of time. But I want to say thank you. I'm sure this conversation is something that we definitely need to have because we need to look into this. But Jide, we want to say thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Rume. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too, sir. Have a good one. All right, so we're speaking with Jide Johnson. He's a public affairs analyst, and we've just been looking at the global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be having an educational review, and this talks about disciplinary measures in Nigerian schools. So please stay with us.